Okay, I want to pick up with where I left off with the questions. So my first question is, who do you believe should oversee the foundations and regulate their activity? I believe that the site principal should be overseeing the committee and reinforcing the policies that are already set in place and adopted by the Board of Education. What are the legal considerations? So legally, we have to consider that we did not fill out the forms to be qualified to operate a raffle event. We also need to think if our district has policies and procedures that are set in place that will protect both the district and the organizations that help contribute to the district. Should foundations be chaired by parents or school employees? I do believe that foundations, I think it's okay for them to be chaired by parents. I think it's also okay to be chaired by school employees. Sometimes, we just ask so much of our school employees that it kind of makes sense to really bring in that parent involvement and help parents be accountable and get some say in what they want for their child's education. So really, I think that either one is fine. I'm very pro of letting parents be involved. But at the end of it, no matter if it's a school employee or a parent overseeing that foundation, there needs to be an administrator present and able to just make sure that everything is being followed through as necessary. Question number 4, what measures should be taken to ensure that parents comply with the law when conducting fundraisers? So when a parent is new to a position, just like in this case, the district organizations should be given a copy of the district's policies that are centered around fundraising or whatever is specific for that organizational event. And those policies should reflect the laws within our state. The site principal should set up a meeting with the president so that way they can go over any misconceptions or address any concerns that they have. The principal should also be considered prior to a fundraising event beginning, just so they can make sure that things are being followed. And if you have this same parent volunteer for 5 years, each year you're going to have to offer a little bit less help because they'll remember and they'll catch on to things. It's really those first couple years where you have new parents involved. Question number 5. Whose responsibilities is it to ensure that the foundations or other organizations that raise funds to support local schools are held accountable for the funds that they raise? I really think that this could fall on the superintendent and Board of Education's job to review the district's budget as a whole. We want to make sure that we're comparing the elementary schools to make sure that the spending is fair and equitable across the schools. We don't want to see large sums of money being brought into Briardale Foundation and then another elementary school receiving significantly less. We need to take some ownership as a district that we need to make sure that all of our students in our elementary buildings are receiving equitable education. I also think that it's okay for the building principal to have some ownership here as well. They should be the first ones to look through the funds and make sure that the funds raised and the funds spent are adding up. Question number 6. Who should audit the funds raised by foundations and similar organizations that raise funds for schools to make certain that the funds are accounted and allocated appropriately? I kind of answered this a little bit in my answer for question number 5. But again, I think this is up to administration, Board of Education to check over because we should be knowledgeable, especially those Board of Education members. They should be able to be knowledgeable about the money that's coming in and where it's being spent because you never know what kinds of questions that they're going to be asked in the public because of the position that they hold. I think it's important for administrators to be able to answer those questions as well. Question 7, as a school principal, should you accept responsibility for this debacle? Honestly, I think this is kind of a moot point at this point of who should accept responsibility. What happened was the ball was dropped and not all things were checked off our boxes. As an administrator, I would gladly accept the responsibility for not adequately preparing the people running my foundations with the knowledge needed to do their job effectively. But I think our district as a whole needs to take some of the responsibility as well for a lack of policies, and we need to put that effort into changing our policies and making our district better as a whole. Question 8, what would I do to prevent this from occurring again? I would rewrite and review our policies to reflect the laws in Kansas so that our organizations are protected. Question 9, how do I predict the fundraiser debacle will affect the school's budget and funds available to support the supplementary curriculum programs? I know that these fundraisers provided a lot of support for our elementary schools, and I anticipate that this will greatly set us back and affect our budget. What can I do as a principal to ensure that the funds will be available to support the programs and how they were supposed to be recipients of funds from the Raffle for Cash fundraiser? So really, I think that I could just take a look at our budget as a whole and see where I'm spending a lot of funds and I wonder if I could make a few cuts there. I would also hope that our foundation could be able to have a fundraiser maybe later in the year if necessary. Maybe money that was raised by the other Elementary schools in our district could kind of be split with Briardale in order to ensure that our supplemental curriculums are equitable between all the schools within our district. How would I develop and monitor a collaborative budget process? I think that meeting with the other school principals within our district, the superintendent, and the Board of Education members, I think that altogether we could develop a budget process that could be monitored by administrators to ensure that our schools were receiving similar funding for all items. All right, I want to let you know the choice that I have decided. I have decided, and I'm sure that it's no surprise, to go with option 2. So after reviewing the pros and cons for each option, I have decided to immediately begin reviewing our current policies and lobbying for a change within our district. I anticipate this option will take time, and it will be a while before we see changes. This is not an option I am picking for immediate results. This is an option that I am choosing to help us out long term and to make us a better district. Other principals need to know, as well as the superintendent and the Board of Education members need to be aware of what is happening in the decision that I have chose to make in order for me to receive their backing. By doing this, all important stakeholders in our district will have a say in reviewing and rewriting the policies, and I truly believe that this path that I have chosen is our best path at being successful now and in the future. So the standard read that I would be able to understand and demonstrate the capacity to evaluate, develop, and advocate for a data-informed and equitable resourcing plan that supports school improvement and student development. I believe that I have met this requirement of the assignments through the standard as it has been presented. I was able to refer back to my previous assignments and resources from this course to review inequality with public schools and within the community. I was able to work up a solution that provided equitable use of resources, opportunities, fundraising abilities, the legality that we have to uphold within our school district. I addressed how various stakeholders were going to be impacted throughout this debacle, and I feel like I was able to weigh my pros and cons, and I was able to identify that the path that I chose, my option 2 to review policies, was not going to be the easiest. It was not going to be the most time effective, but it was going to be the best for our school in the long run. And I feel like I took the time to make sure that my stakeholders were going to be a part of this decision and that my path was created in order to protect our school, protect our students, protect our foundation, and protect our community. All right, thank you very much.